Hi, it's me again, making another wristlet keychain. Thought I would just do an updated video answering, I think, all of the questions that the last video had. I did go back in and I think answered all the individual questions. I also went ahead and just wrote everything up and just kind of posted it. I think I answered everybody's questions. I've got everything, I think, in there as far as what the different beads are, all the different tools I use, where I get them, all the things. So it's free. It's linked. Let me know if you have any other question. And I don't know, is there anything else I should make? Okay, you're going to want to start with your pattern already lined up. Here I've got 19 beads. These are all 15 millimeter silicone, and then I have one silicone focal. Typically, you're going to be anywhere between 18 and 21. For the cording, I use 1.5 millimeter nylon cord. I like to pre-cut. In general, I'm going to do about 30 inches. I found that 5 wraps around your hand is what is best. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to cut. Now you can just string the beads on like this. You can just go ahead and start stringing if you wanted to. Typically they go on perfectly fine. Or you can use a loop turner. The loop turner lets you string most of them on, and then you use a little hook to hook it onto your string. That's what we're going to use today. So now we're just going to string them all on, or at least as much as we can. As you can see, not all of them will fit. Depending on what you're using, maybe you can get them all, maybe you can get most of them. It really depends. The loop turner has this hook with this edge. You're going to take your string and you're going to hook it on the string. And then you're going to either, you can close the flap or the bead will close the flap. I like to start a couple just to make sure that it's nice and on there, but then go ahead and just push them all on. As they're pushing off the loop turner, the string that we hooked on the loop turner, which you'll see, is still on the string coming out. So once that string comes out, you're going to want to unhook it. So now, because we went in the middle, you have this situation, which again, I'm fine with, because if I start at the end, sometimes I spill them. So you just want to make sure that you take one end and pull the rest of it through. You can always grab your pliers and pull that through. So now you have most of them strung on. So now, like I said, I'm just going to string the other ones by hand. So I've got all of the beads on the string. Again, I'm going to want to find that middle spot. So I'm going to pull them tight going towards the middle, because I want to have it even on both sides, or at least as much as I can. I'm going to use the hardware. You can really use whatever you want. I use the keychain ring with the lobster claw. Now so we're going to start tying. Okay. I like to tie right away with a surgeon's knot. So what that means is a regular tie, but it's a 2 loop. So 1 loop, but then the 2nd loop before you pull tight. Okay. Show you that again. It's a normal tie, except you're going to loop not once, but twice before you pull. Now I just pull by hand at first, pulling nice and tight. And then I do use knot grippers, knot pullers, whatever you want to call them. You can also just use your hands, or you can also use just 2 different pliers to pull those tight as well. I feel most comfortable with knot grippers. So for these, you're just going to wrap each side around. And pull. As you pull it tight, you'll see some of the beads start to squish, and you'll start feeling some of the tension. When you feel like you've got enough tension or enough squish, then you can go ahead and let it go. Then I still like to knot it another time. I personally do another surgeon's knot. This time I will just use my hands. So then that's pretty much it. But now we're going to swoop the string in a little, just for a little bit of reinforcement and to hide the string. Before we do that, I like to melt it just a little bit before I cut off some of the excess. I'm using a torch lighter. But again, a regular lighter works perfectly fine. You just want enough to melt it together to secure that knot. And then how much you want to go through is up to you. I'm going to go through about 3. I usually do 2 or 3. So because of that, let's see, I'm going to cut off about half of it. Now, in order to go back through, then I am going to use this needle, threading needle, doll needle, whatever. I've heard it referred to a lot of different things, but either way, you want to make sure the eye is pretty big. I've even widened this one. A lot of people actually use a paper clip. You just wrap it around and then swing it through. So it really kind of just depends. Point is, you want to have something to be able to go back through these beads. So again, for me, I'm going to use this threading needle. Just going to put it right in. I'm going to make sure that it's in far enough, and then I'm going to string it back through. So I want to pull it apart enough to find the opening to the bead. And then I'm going to go through 1, 2, 3. It's getting a little tight, so I'll even push it on the table. And then I can use my pliers to pull the rest of it through. Now it is going to be snug because you've tightened the wristlet so much. And then that might happen, but we were lucky because even though it fell out, the string came with it, so it's okay. So now we've got the string on one side, so we're going to go back to the other side and do the same thing. Again, string through, and string through. Find opening, just start string back. 1, 2, just string back through. You can always go in and just pull the string, also, as long as you get that part out. Even though it's a pain, you want it to be snug because that's a good sign that you've already got a tight wristlet. So whether I was going to go through or not, this is the next step, is to tie them again. So I'm going to make sure I've got them pulled all the way through, squeeze a little. So now I'm going to make a knot around itself. So I've got my string, it's coming out from this side. I'm going to go through the bottom, kind of wrap it around, but instead of wrapping it all the way around, before I go around, I'm going to loop it through. And then I'm going to pull it tight. Now I'm going to go back to the other side so I can see where the knot is, because I really want to push the knot down because I don't want it to tighten here. I want it to tighten on the inside. So I'm going to pull and I'm going to push. So as I'm pulling here, I'm making sure to push that knot down. Pulling tight and pushing that knot down. I like to do that twice. So again, loop around, go back through, go back, and then pull. But again, you want to make sure you pull tight and pull this, because if I were to pull this tight now, there's a chance that it could just tighten up there, and I really want this to come down. So I'm going to push this down while I pull this up, and you can feel more tension building as you do that. Now again, personal preference, you can keep doing more knots if you wanted to, or again, you could go through a couple more beads if you wanted to. But this is, for this one, this is where I'm going to stop. But I have to cut this edge off. Again, before I cut anything, before I do anything, I always like to melt what I have so far. So again, just melting it enough to kind of melt into itself. And then I will cut off the excess. And then that's all nice and knotted. And then you're just going to kind of finagle it so the knot gets hidden. And then that side's done. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So again, you're going to just pull it a little tighter, make sure it's all the way out, and you're going to knot it within itself. So again, swing over, go through the loop, and pull while you push down. Pull, push. You do that again. If I done one side, I'll try to do the other side. If I even keep track which side I did, but either way, again, swing over. Instead of swinging all the way back, you're going to loop through. So when you've got the knot forming, again, you're going to push down, knot, and pull up the string. So pull and push. There you go. Again, you keep doing one knot if you want, trying to do as many if you don't want that knot to be too big because it'll be hard to hide. And if I want to, I can keep stringing through or even string back to triple it. Either way, this is where I'm going to stop. For this one, just looking at it, I feel like. But again, before I do anything, I like to secure it first. And then you just want to go through and kind of make sure they are the way that you want them.